The tribunal chamber felt colder than Mara Kepler expected. Not physically, Aurelian engineering never wasted heat, but in the way the air refused to move, as if the room held its breath. She stood at the center of the glowing circular platform, boots aligned as protocol demanded, chin lifted, spine steady. Her uniform was immaculate, save for a faint crease on her left sleeve from the long shuttle ride. She smoothed it out instinctively. Habit. Discipline. Armor. The Council of Aurelians regarded her with identical expressions, calm, unreadable, faintly superior. Their blue faces and smooth features made them seem carved from a single stone. They sat in a perfect arc, robes falling in crisp lines over their long limbs. Behind them, transparent display walls cycled through streams of alien script. General Mara Kepler, decorated commander of the human Third Expeditionary Front, felt each gaze like a measured weight. Humanity had waited centuries for a seat here. It now felt like standing on the edge of an execution block. Councillor Thalen, oldest of the assembly, leaned forward. General Kepler, he began, voice cool as glass, the Dominion presents evidence that you initiated an unprovoked attack on General Solis during the diplomatic gathering 3 cycles ago. Mara kept her voice firm. General Solis was never harmed by me, or by any human. The footage you claim to possess is manufactured. A murmur rippled through the Aurelians, barely audible, but unmistakable. They disliked contradictions. They despised challenges. Thalen tapped a control sphere. The displays behind him shimmered, merging into a single projection, Mara's own likeness lunging at an Aurelian officer with a plasma blade. For a moment, even she felt her breath stutter. The image was execution-level fabrication. Perfect posture, perfect lighting, identical facial structure. Had she not known better, she might have accused herself. That is impossible, she said quietly. I was in orbit over Vega 9 during that meeting. Your own navigation records confirm my presence there. Councillor Wren blinked slowly. We reviewed those records. They have been tampered with. Of course they had. The trap was elegant, intentional, airtight. Someone wanted the peace treaty shattered and her name tied to the blade. Mara drew a long breath. If humanity intended a strike, you would not be debating me in a chamber. You would be speaking with my successor. It was a bold statement. It earned several narrow glances. Before Thalen could respond, the chamber doors slid open. The entrance was reserved for exactly one individual and he arrived with silent precision. King Tharos Vex. The Galactic King of the Aurelian Dominion moved with a stern, measured grace, hands clasped behind him, robe trails sweeping the floor like shifting shadows. His presence tightened the air further. Every councillor straightened. Mara forced her heartbeat into a steady rhythm. Tharos stepped to the raised dais at the far end. We dispense with courtroom games, he said. His voice carried through the chamber, controlled, precise, commanding. The human general stands before us accused of shattering the luminous concord. Enough deliberation. Thalen inclined his head. Your Majesty, we have not completed. Tharos lifted a hand. The council fell silent instantly. He studied Mara with a gaze that measured, dissected, and categorized her in a single sweep. Humanity's rise has been swift, impressive. But with ambition comes risk. Mara met his eyes. Our ambition is stability. Expansion ensures survival, not dominion. Words, Tharos replied. Spoken by every empire before collapse. He descended the steps slowly, stopping only a meter from the circular platform. His proximity revealed small details, silver flecks in his royal insignia, faint lines at the corner of his eyes, almost imperceptible tension in his jaw. He was not here for justice. He was here for spectacle. The footage is clear, Tharos said. The human general attacked General Solis. He succumbed to his wounds 8 hours later. Mara's pulse froze. General Solis is alive. I saw him last month. Tharos's brow arched delicately. Then you saw his replacement. Her stomach dropped. So that was the game. Erase the original, replace him, fabricate the attack, ignite the fuse. Clean, cruel logic. Classic Aurelian craft. Mara's voice sharpened. This is an engineered provocation. Someone within your dominion wants a war. And you're standing on their side of the blade. The chamber temperature didn't change, but the air did. Something brittle slipped into it. Tharos stepped onto the glowing platform with her. Breaking protocol. Breaking neutrality. Breaking pretense. You misunderstand, he said softly. I am the blade. Before the council could react, he drew a compact energy pistol from within his robe. The movement was seamless, practiced, silent, merciless. Mara had a single second to process the impossible. Humanity, Tharos said, needed a lesson. He pulled the trigger. The beam struck her left shoulder, searing through fabric and flesh. The force drove her to one knee, breath wrenched from her lungs. Pain exploded down her arm. Gasps finally shattered the council's composure. Ren rose halfway from his seat. Your Majesty, this violates every tenet of. Sit, Tharos commanded. Ren obeyed instantly. Mara pressed a trembling hand to her wound. Warmth soaked her palm, spilling down her sleeve. She tasted iron at the back of her throat but refused to collapse entirely. Tharos knelt so his face was level with hers. You will be remembered, he murmured, as the spark that ended the concord. She forced her voice through the pain. History remembers truth. Not cowards. His eyes narrowed. The barrel lifted toward her chest. The chamber lights flickered. A small pulse, barely visible, radiated across the floor. She recognized it instantly. Human tech. Covert extraction protocol. 3 more pulses. Countdown. Tharos didn't notice. Your species overreaches, he said. 2 pulses. You mistake adaptability. 1 pulse. For authority. The chamber erupted as the extraction unit breached the external doors. A blinding shockwave knocked council chairs back, alarms flared through the hall, and a squad of armored human operatives stormed in with controlled precision. Secure the general, their commander shouted. Tharos fired again, but one operative intercepted him with a kinetic shield. The beam ricocheted into the ceiling, carving molten cracks through the metal. Hands gripped Mara under each arm, lifting her swiftly yet carefully. Her vision blurred, but she stayed conscious, forcing the world into focus. Tharos shouted something she couldn't hear, too many alarms, too many weapons firing, too many boots pounding the chamber floor. As her team dragged her toward the extraction tunnel, Mara caught one final glimpse of the Aurelian king. Standing in the center of the glowing platform, weapon raised, robe smoldering at the edges. And smiling as if war itself had finally come to greet him. The 1,700-year peace treaty died in that silent, triumphant smile. And humanity would never bow again. Mara surfaced from unconsciousness to the rhythmic hum of a stealth engine. The sound was soft, almost soothing, yet edged with tension. She recognized it instantly, the pulse signature of the Silent Meridian, a covert human extraction ship used only in operations too delicate to announce. Her left shoulder throbbed with every beat of her heart. A regenerative cast wrapped the wound, glowing faintly as nanofibers worked to seal the burned tissue. She tried flexing her fingers, pain flared but movement returned. Good. She wasn't dead. Not yet. A familiar voice reached her before she fully opened her eyes. General Kepler, stay still. You took a direct energy shot. Mara blinked at Commander Lyra Hayes leaning over her. Hayes's face was streaked with dust from the tribunal breach, her hazel eyes sharp despite exhaustion. You cut that extraction a little close, Mara murmured. Hayes exhaled. You try predicting a monarch with a concealed sidearm. Mara pushed herself slightly upright, ignoring Hayes's frown. Status. The King's guards sealed the chamber after we got out. Aurelian media already broadcasts their version. Hayes tapped a hovering console. A holographic feed flickered on, Mara's own image, still kneeling on the tribunal floor, blood spilling down her arm. A manufactured voiceover declared, humanity has violated the Concord. War protocols initiated. Mara watched in cold silence. They didn't waste time. No, Hayes said. And neither can we. Footsteps approached. Lieutenant Amani Chen, the Meridian's intelligence officer, stepped into the medical bay with a datapad in hand. General, Chen said, there's something you need to see. Mara steadied herself. Show me. Chen projected a transmission. Aurelian news banners scrolled beneath a statement delivered by Councillor Wren. His tone was brittle, forced, and carefully controlled. General Solis, he announced, died following the human assault. Our Dominion mourns a revered leader. Mara stared at the image displayed next, a tall Aurelian figure lying under a ceremonial shroud. Their facial structure matched Solis, but something felt off, too smooth, too polished, lacking the subtle scar Solis carried across his left cheekbone from an old border skirmish. That's not him, Mara whispered. Hayes crossed her arms. We thought the same. Chen magnified the projection, isolating micromarkers within the image. The analysis revealed inconsistencies, pixelation irregularities, biosignature mismatches, slight asymmetry deviations from Solis's known medical profile. This is a clone, Chen said. Or a synthetic replacement. Mara's stomach tightened. Solis was alive when I last saw him. We spoke during the Terra Accord summit. He wasn't hostile. Which means the real Solis is either imprisoned or dead, Hayes added. And the Dominion wants him erased. Mara steadied her breathing. Then the attack footage. The alleged death. All orchestrated. By someone high enough to rewrite records, Chen said. A holographic map replaced the projection real-time star charts showing human colonies along the border. Red markers pulsed ominously. Hayes pointed. We intercepted encrypted transmissions between the Aurelian High Vanguard and an unidentified faction. They reference Operation Severance. Mara frowned. Meaning? A preemptive strike on human frontier worlds, Chen said. Timed with the tribunal incident. Mara's pulse quickened. How long until they move? Early estimates, 2 days. Hayes paused. But they've already begun reconnaissance sweeps. Mara swung her legs off the medical bed, fighting another flash of pain. Hayes stepped forward, but Mara raised a hand. I'm functional. We can't lose those colonies. Evacuation? Chen shook her head. Not possible. Communications are jammed. Frontier systems won't believe a war has begun. Aurelians sold the narrative too fast. Mara closed her eyes for a moment. Not to rest, just to think without the noise. What about the other triumvirate powers? Virel? Soric? Both issued neutral statements, Hayes said. They're watching. Waiting to see who collapses first. Of course. Ancient powers rarely intervened until the cost became profitable. Mara inhaled sharply. Send word to Earth Command. We must fortify the border and prepare for counterstrikes. We did, Hayes said. Command authorized you to act with full autonomy. They want your judgment guiding our response. Mara didn't miss the weight behind the words. Autonomy meant desperation wrapped as trust. Humanity was bracing for the worst. General, Chen said more quietly, there's another layer. We traced a covert channel embedded in the fabricated footage. Hidden metadata references an internal Aurelian designation, Crown Directive. Mara's eyes narrowed. A directive issued only by the king. Yes, Chen said. This conspiracy points directly to Tharos. Mara's shoulder throbbed as she recalled the cold precision in his eyes before he fired. He wanted her death to spark a war engineered under the guise of justice. He wanted humanity cornered, discredited, weakened before they grew stronger. How far is the meridian from the frontier line? Mara asked. 5 hours, Hayes answered. Set course. Best speed. Hayes hesitated. General, you're still recovering. I can recover en route. Mara met her stare with quiet resolve. Those colonies have families. Workers. Students. People who think the Concorde protects them. Hayes nodded. Course set. The ship's engines deepened in tone, shifting into faster resonance. The cabin lights dimmed slightly as power rerouted to propulsion. Chen lingered as Hayes returned to the bridge. There's something else. We recovered partial logs from Solis's last known coordinates. He attempted to send a distress beacon 3 weeks ago. Distress? Mara repeated. Solis never requested help from humans. That's why the beacon was encoded in an obsolete frequency old enough to bypass Dominion surveillance. Can we decrypt it? Working on it, Chen said. But it proves Solis tried to warn someone. Mara's gaze hardened. Find the rest. The truth started with him. Chen nodded and left her alone in the dim medical bay. Mara stared at the sealed wound under the cast. The pain pulsed steadily, but pain was familiar, an old companion forged in training grounds, battlefield dust, and diplomatic chambers sharper than any rifle. She rose and approached the viewing panel beside the bed. Starlight stretched in brilliant lines as the meridian accelerated through the void. Out there, an Aurelian fleet assembled in cold silence. Out there, entire civilizations braced for the collapse of peace. Out there, someone believed humanity would bend. They were mistaken. Hayes returned, her voice steady. General, frontier outposts confirm unidentified vessels entering scan range. Mara squared her shoulders. Then we give them a reason to rethink their war. Her reflection stared back at her through the glass. Pale, resolute, wounded but unbroken. The Concorde may have burned to ashes behind her, but humanity carried embers of its own. And she intended to make those embers burn bright enough for the galaxy to see. The frontier world of Helion 3 shimmered below the silent meridian, its oceans reflecting the light of a pale white star. The planet looked peaceful, too peaceful, considering the storm forming just beyond sensor reach. Mara leaned over the tactical table as red markers pulsed across the holographic display. Hayes pointed to a cluster of fast-moving signatures. Aurelian skirmish vessels. Scouting formations. They're testing our borders. Mara studied their pattern. Not a full strike yet. They're mapping reaction times and defense response intervals. Chen expanded the display. Outposts V12 and V13 already report signal interference. If they sever comms entirely, settlers won't know they're being targeted until it's too late. The room fell briefly silent. Every second lost meant lives at risk. Prepare defensive protocols, Mara said. We hold this line. Hayes nodded and relayed orders to the bridge. The Meridian's crew moved with brisk confidence. Each officer knew the weight resting on them. As the ship descended toward Helion 3's orbit, the first burst of Aurelian fire streaked across the void, bright arcs of energy slicing past the Meridian's shields. The impact jolted the deck. Chen gripped a railing. They're no longer testing. They're committing. Then we answer, Mara said. The Meridian fired a volley of kinetic rounds. The projectiles streaked through space with stunning velocity, tearing through the nearest Aurelian vessel. It fractured into molten fragments, scattering like broken glass. More ships dropped from warp, sleek, blue-hulled predators forming a wide crescent. Hayes glanced at Mara. They're forming a containment net. Not against us, Mara replied. Against the planet. They intend to isolate Helion 3. Chen's voice tightened. They want a quick victory to broadcast across the triumvirate. They won't get one, Mara said. Hayes tapped her earpiece. General, Frontier Command opened a secure channel. Mara stepped aside as the hologram shimmered on. Admiral Rowan, a man known for his unshakable demeanor. Today, there was strain behind his eyes. Mara, Rowan said, our border is collapsing. Aurelians hit 4 outposts and pinned down the 5th Fleet. We saw your tribunal footage, what happened there? Mara answered without hesitation. Fabricated evidence, a staged assassination, and a direct attack on my person. Tharos used it to ignite war. Rowan exhaled sharply. We suspected as much. We're stretched thin. The Dominion plans to breach multiple systems at once. We hold Helion 3, Mara said. If we lose this world, the Aurelians will push straight into the inner colonies. Rowan gave a grim nod. You have full tactical authority. Reinforcements are inbound, but hours away. The transmission faded. Hayes returned to Mara's side. General, at least 3 more Aurelian destroyers entering orbit. Mara considered their options. A full fleet engagement here was unwinnable. But survival wasn't the only objective, sending a message mattered just as much. Hayes, Mara said, prepare decoy pods. Flood the region with false signatures. I want them guessing which targets are real. On it. Chen added, Aurelian ships rely heavily on predictive algorithms. Scramble their readings, and they'll hesitate. Hesitation, Mara said, is victory in slow motion. The ship's alarms shifted pitch as the Meridian accelerated toward the incoming destroyers. Mara braced herself and stepped into the command well. Screens lit with tactical overlays. Crew voices layered into a coordinated symphony, weapons locking, shields adjusting, vectors calculating. Despite the bruises lining her ribs and the ache in her shoulder, Mara felt clarity sharpen her thoughts. This was where she belonged. The Meridian pivoted sharply, engines flaring, and streaked beneath the belly of the first destroyer. It launched a compressed ion burst. The blast tore into the enemy vessel, rupturing its stabilizers. The destroyer spiraled, systems flickering before erupting in a bright plume. Aurelian forces recoiled, recalculating. Chen grinned faintly. They didn't expect resistance this precise. They underestimated humans again, Mara said. But the Dominion adapted fast. 3 cruisers broke formation and closed in, surrounding the Meridian in a tightening triangle. Shields at 60%, Hayes called out. If they flank us, we won't hold. Mara scanned the field. We don't need to hold. We need to break their rhythm. She stepped closer to Hayes. Bring us between those 2 cruisers. Close enough to scrape paint. Hayes blinked. General, that's a near collision. Exactly. Aurelians hate spatial chaos. They built their entire combat doctrine around measured precision. We disrupt that, we force them wide. Hayes grinned. Chaotic human maneuvers. Classic. The Meridian lunged forward, engines roaring. The gap between the cruisers narrowed. 50 meters, Chen warned. 20. 5. A metallic scrape echoed across the hull as the Meridian blasted through the gap, barely missing both cruisers. Shockwaves from the maneuver sent the enemy ships tumbling out of formation. Their fire patterns broke, momentarily disorganized. Mara seized the opening. Hit their exposed flanks. The Meridian fired a concentrated barrage. 1 cruiser detonated, the other veered off in a trail of burning fragments. 2 ships disabled, Hayes reported. We're pulling their attention away from the planet. Good, Mara said. But we're not done. A new alert blared across the bridge, a large signature dropping from warp. Chen's face paled. General, the Vanguard Herald just arrived. The Vanguard Herald, flagship to the Vanguard fleet. A vessel 3 times larger than any human dreadnought, equipped with artillery capable of shattering continents. Hayes whispered, they're bringing the King's personal fleet. No, Mara said quietly. They're bringing a warning. The Herald positioned itself with regal precision, its hull gleaming under the star's light. Communications ignited across the Meridian's consoles. It's a direct channel, Hayes said. From the Herald's commander. Mara nodded. Put it through. A towering blue figure materialized in the hologram, Commander Arion Vex, brother to King Tharos, known across the galaxy for ruthlessness rivaling his siblings. General Kepler, Arion said, his tone polite yet laced with contempt. You are far from your tribunal cell. I go where I'm needed, Mara replied. Humanity insists on defiance, Arion continued. You fight well, but this encounter ends now. Withdraw, or Helion 3 burns. Mara stepped closer, gaze steady. You claim justice, yet threaten billions of innocents. Some kings honor that is. Arion tilted his head. Honor is irrelevant. Order is all that matters. Then you've already lost. For a heartbeat, the hologram flickered. Arion's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing more. The transmission cut abruptly. Hayes swallowed hard. General, the Herald is charging its primary weapon. Mara stared at the monstrous vessel. They couldn't win a direct strike. Not with this ship. Not today. Prepare evacuation protocols, Mara said softly. Hayes hesitated. We're retreating. No, Mara answered. We're repositioning. We need reinforcements and a plan that hits the Dominion where it hurts. Chen looked up. Their capital? Mara nodded once. We take the truth straight to their throne. The Meridian veered away from Helion 3 as the Herald's weapon glowed with lethal radiance. The world trembled on the edge of annihilation. And Mara Kepler prepared for a mission that would decide the future of her species. The silent Meridian cut through deep space like a blade, running dark to evade Aurelian scans. Mara stood beside the navigation display, shoulder wrapped in a fresh regenerative seal. Pain lingered but no longer dulled her focus. She kept her gaze on the projected path leading straight toward the Dominion's heart, Aurelia Prime, capital of the Aurelian Empire. Hayes approached quietly. "We're 3 minutes from drop point. After that, cloak won't hold." Mara nodded. "We enter fast, exit faster." Chen joined them, grim resolve tightening her features. "We decrypted the final pieces of Solis's distress signal." Mara turned. "And?" It was a warning, and a confession. Solis discovered Tharos intended to rewrite the Concord long before the tribunal. He tried to stop it. Tharos removed him and replaced him with a controlled proxy. Mara absorbed the truth without flinching. Solis tried to protect the treaty. Tharos chose conquest. Hayes drew a breath. "So we expose the rot. And we do it in the king's own chamber," Mara said. The Meridian slowed, preparing for its stealth insertion. The ship descended into the shadow of Aurelia Prime's largest moon, then dove toward the capital spires. The planet glowed with icy blues and sharp metallic whites, its architecture rising like crystalline formations, beautiful in shape, merciless in design. Hayes handed Mara a compact pulse rifle. "We get you inside. You get the confession. We finish this." Mara accepted the weapon. "We move the moment we land." The Meridian touched down on a narrow balcony beneath the palace's outer tier. Automated defenses scanned the platform, but Chen injected forged clearance codes before the alarms triggered. The bay doors slid open, and the air hit them cold and sterile. Mara led the team through a corridor lined with pale luminescent panels. Their boots echoed softly, too loud in a place where silence was a symbol of power. Aurelians patrolled deeper inside, armored guards with elongated visors and ceremonial halberds humming with energized blades. The first squad spotted intruders, raising weapons. Mara's team fired before the guards fully reacted. Blue armor clattered across the polished floor. Hayes motioned ahead. "Security will converge. We keep moving." They advanced through ascending halls, each more ornate than the last, sculpted pillars, floating banners, and geometric patterns etched into the walls. Light pulsed beneath their feet with every step. Chen hacked a towering gateway, its arch engraved with Aurelian script. "Throne chamber directly beyond this corridor," she whispered. Mara tightened her grip on the rifle. "Ready?" Hayes nodded. "Lead the way." The doors parted. The throne chamber stretched vast and quiet. High windows cast cold radiance over a polished obsidian floor. At the center stood the Aurelian throne, carved from translucent crystal, glowing faintly like a heart beating under ice. King Tharos waited there, clad in deep indigo armor instead of ceremonial robes. He didn't rise, but his presence filled the room like a storm cloud. "Mara Kepler," he said evenly, "you walk willingly into judgment." Mara stepped forward. "Judgment requires truth. Something you abandoned long ago." Tharos studied her with detached curiosity. "Humanity's persistence is impressive. Yet here you are injured, hunted, hopelessly outmatched." "Perhaps," Mara said. "But you made a mistake. Enlighten me. You believed the galaxy would accept your lie. You never considered Solis might leave proof behind." For the first time, Tharos's expression shifted barely, but enough. A flicker of irritation crossed his eyes. Hayes activated the portable projection unit, displaying Solis's decrypted message. Solis appeared, face bruised, voice strained but clear. "Tharos intends to dismantle the Concord. He replaced me, altered records, and plans a strike to frame humanity. This message is my final attempt to reveal the truth." Solis's image dissolved. Tharos's gaze hardened. An obsolete relic of a stubborn officer. Solis failed to see reason. His resistance justified his removal. "Your justification ends today," Mara said. You orchestrated genocide disguised as diplomacy. Tharos rose slowly from his throne. The chamber lights brightened as if reacting to his stance. You think bringing this message here accomplishes anything? He asked. My dominion stands unified. The triumvirate no longer tolerates human expansion. You are alone. Mara took another step forward. But the galaxy watches. And your throne room is no longer sealed. Chen tapped her wrist console. The broadcast icon flared to life. Every word, every breath, every flicker of emotion in the room now streamed across Aurelian networks and beyond. Tharos saw the icon a moment too late. His eyes widened. Disable it. Guards burst through side entrances. Mara's team met them head-on. Energy bolts blazed across the chamber. Halberds clashed against pulse rifles. Armor cracked. Sparks flew. Mara sprinted toward Tharos. He drew the same compact weapon he had used in the tribunal. You survive long enough to be a nuisance, he said. She ducked beneath the first blast and rolled. Pain tore through her shoulder, but she steadied herself and fired. Her shot struck his forearm, forcing him back. You stand on a throne of lies, she said. And now everyone sees it. Tharos lunged, striking with surprising speed. Mara blocked his swing with the barrel of her rifle, the impact reverberating through her bones. She shoved him off balance. Hayes shouted from across the hall, broadcast stable. Every major channel is mirroring it. Tharos's composure finally cracked. You dare weaponize my own palace against me? This palace belongs to the people you betray, Mara replied. He swung again. Mara sidestepped and struck his wrist. The weapon clattered away, skidding across the crystalline floor. Tharos stumbled, grabbing a pillar to steady himself. You believe this confession will earn humans victory, he hissed. War will only accelerate. No, Mara said. War started the moment you fired at me. This ends because the truth is stronger than your fear. Tharos charged again, but his movements lacked precision now. Mara met him squarely, driving him back until his spine struck the base of the throne. The broadcast icon pulsed bright red. Every viewer saw their king cornered by the woman he tried to destroy. Tharos breathed heavily. Humanity was never meant to rise. Mara looked him directly in the eyes. We rose anyway. Hayes's voice echoed across the chamber. Aurelian networks collapsing, Virel and Soric channels calling for his removal. Tharos stared at the feed behind Mara, a wave of alien outrage, disbelief, and shock. The Dominion's silence cracked at last. Mara stepped back as guards lowered their weapons one by one, realization overtaking loyalty. Tharos slumped to his knees. The throne chamber fell silent, not with the oppressive stillness of domination, but with the breath of a civilization waking up. Mara allowed herself a single, steadying breath. It's over. Chen approached. General, the message reached every system. The Dominion Council issued immediate suspension of Tharos's command. Hayes added, human colonies stand down. Reinforcements are arriving. The Vanguard Herald is retreating. Mara's knees buckled slightly, exhaustion catching up. Hayes grabbed her arm. Easy, she said. We won. Mara managed a faint, tired smile. Humanity won. Outside the palace windows, the dawn over Aurelia Prime shifted in color, softening from icy white to a muted blue. A new day rising over a fallen throne. And for the first time since the Concord shattered, the galaxy felt the quiet promise of something returning. Not fear. Not domination. But justice. If you'd like, I can now create. Fire an epilogue. Fire character profiles. Fire a sequel outline. Fire audiobook-style narration. Just tell me,